Hey, how's everybody doing? Hoping you're having a fantastic day. Coming at you. It's a Thursday night. Look at that. A Thursday night. Almost Friday. We're almost there, boys. Almost at the Lord's Day. Remember, don't eat meat tomorrow. So if you're listening right now, you hear me. It's Thursday. You eat meat. I warned you. So, no meat tomorrow. Remember. But I feel like there's no feast day tomorrow. So no meat. No meat at all. So, today, what are we doing today? So, we're going through the 7th through the 10th commandments. So, this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So, if you don't know, these are my streams for the New Aquinas Academy. So, the New Aquinas Academy, basically, I just kind of go through works of St. Thomas, explain them, outline, and then answer questions. So there's a Discord server for this. So if you go to the description, there should be a link to a Discord server. So you can join that. And while you read along, right now we're reading through, obviously, St. Thomas's commentary on the Ten Commandments. So as you read along, you can ask me questions. I'll answer them on stream. I can answer them in the chat. I would be more than happy to answer those questions in the chat rather than answering the cringe questions I normally get throughout my time on Discord. So I'd be more than happy to answer those questions, ones that are relevant to the text that we are going over. So definitely check that out. And also, if you really like the fact that I'm doing it and would like to see me make this sort of material available to more people, definitely consider becoming a patron for the New Aquinas Academy, which is different than my normal Patreon. So it's distinctly for this. So definitely check that out as well. So today we are going through, as I said, the 7th through the 10th commandment. We were supposed to go through 4 through 10 last week, but we didn't because we spent a lot of time on the 6th commandment, as we should. So I had to kind of make this as a part 2. So this is going to be a bit shorter. And as a reminder, I forgot to mention this, I will be absent next week. I'll be down in Florida next week on vacation. So the week after is when we're going to be starting with his commentary on the Lord's Prayer. So for that time, we will be going over the prologue. The prologue is pretty long, which talks about prayer in general and then the first few words before we get to the first petition. So we'll just be going over the prologue of St. Thomas's commentary on the Lord's Prayer next time. So definitely watch out for that in 2 weeks. So now getting into it, and this is going to be a bit shorter. Next week, 2 weeks from now, you guys have 2 weeks. So prologue and first petition, hallowed be thy name. So I will be stretching you guys to your limits, reading for like 15 minutes rather than reading for like 12 minutes. So 7th commandment. So in the 7th commandment, we are getting into those things which our neighbor owns, because in the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th commandments, really all of them, what we have is crimes against the neighbor's honor, person, and really the 4th commandment kind of is a encapsulation of all of the last 7. But the neighbor's person and then their spouse, which is deeply connected, or really is kind of in the same way one flesh with them. But in the 7th commandment, we get into their belongings, damaging their belongings. And then in the 8th commandment, we get to damaging our neighbor by our words, which we will be going over that. Then the 9th and 10th, something as deep as not only by action, not only by words, but also even by thoughts. The commandments are going to restrain our concupiscence in that way. So the 7th commandment, as I said, is that thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not steal. And there's some fun topics in this one, because this is where we get to talk about everybody's favorite topic, usury. We get to talk about why usury is wrong. St. Thomas provides a very quick and great justification for the traditional teaching of the church on this matter. So, what is theft, broadly speaking? And he's gonna define it right here at the beginning. He's gonna say that theft, the Lord forbids us to injure our neighbor in his goods. So this commandment forbids any worldly goods whatsoever to be taken away wrongfully. So taking away goods wrongfully. That's all that theft is. There's a few different ways this is done. First, by taking stealthily. So basically, taking it when they're not looking. This is an act wholly blameworthy because it is a form of treachery. Confusion is upon the thief. So we're stealing in stealth. Then it gets worse. Secondly, by taking with violence, and this is an even greater injury. Among those that do such things are wicked kings and rulers. So taking away with violence, it's basically, we could think about it just really just, grabbing something from somebody. But it's also basically stealing by way of coercion. Stealing by way of coercion. So this can be done not only by enacting physical violence, but it can also be done by like mafia-like behavior and any sort of like tyrannical type behavior towards goods. So this is often done by governments, actually, taking away with violence, even if they don't directly commit violence against people. But they do make laws which are unjust towards people's property, taking them in an unjust manner. That is the second type, taking with violence. And then third, theft is committed by not paying wages that are due. So one must pay the due to those that work for him. And this is actually a very, very important teaching in sacred scripture. And this includes not only not paying somebody just by not giving them any money, but this also includes underpaying. So again, we saw above that at times they steal, that is the government steal, by enacting laws and enforcing them for profit only. So sometimes stealthily, sometimes by violence, contrary to the Lord's will, who wishes rule according to justice. So this isn't always something which is directly violating the will of another person, but it also could be something indirectly violating their dignity. So it could be something which is not directly but indirectly coercive. So this would include not only not paying, but also coercively not paying enough. So if some work, so St. Thomas is not a libertarian. If some work is due $10 and you trick somebody, basically, or finesse them into paying $3, then that's stealing. That's stealing. And the same is going to go in the fourth kind of theft. And I'm not, to be clear, I'm not like a living wage proponent. I think it's absolutely reasonable to think that you might have younger kids who have jobs that wouldn't pay rent if they had to pay rent. But there is such a thing as coercively paying too little for work, just to be clear. So the fourth kind of theft is fraud in buying and selling. So this is directed against the keepers of wine shops who mix water with the wine. And then usury, so our favorite thing. So basically, this first half, we can look at that there is some sort of quasi-intrinsic value in goods. So to sell inferior goods for too high of a price is stealing. It's fraud. If you say you're selling wine, you mix water in with your wine, and therefore it's not as good, it's fraud. You can't cut your product. So now it says in the fantastic part that's going to make everybody squirm, usury. Usury is also forbidden. So this is his justification. Why? So this is also against money changers who speak and commit many frauds, and against the sellers of cloth and other goods. But you may object, why can I not give money, just like a horse or a house? To this it must be said that in money, the sin is that an item is sold twice. In a house, there are two items, the substance and the use. It is one thing to have a house, and another to use a house. So I can sell separately the use of a house without selling the house itself. The same for such like. But for things that consist in the use alone, and the use alienates the item, the same distinction cannot be made with a house. We use money by alienating it, and food by consuming it. Therefore, if you sell the use, you are selling twice. So, for St. Thomas, you really, the sin behind usury is that you're not giving anything, actually. You're receiving money, but you're not giving anything. Now, it's one thing, of course, and St. Thomas makes this distinction. It's one thing for you to be compensated for the danger, impossible profits that you may have while giving somebody money. So that's perfectly legitimate. But it's another thing to make money positively with money. That's illegitimate. You're not giving them anything. You're giving them the use of something temporarily, and they're not getting anything out of it. Not giving them anything, but you're getting money still. So that's the issue with it. And then lastly, fifthly, theft is committed by those who buy promotions. So this is simony. So considering, he's going to give a bunch of reasons for why theft is wrong. The first is because the gravity of this sin, which is likened to murder. Because, I mean, if you think about it, when it comes to people's possessions, external possessions are going to, in a certain way, they're going to cause the subsistence of that person. They're going to keep them sustained in their life. So to take away somebody's livelihood is akin to murder. Because let's say, trying to think real quick. I don't know. Let's say you're a farmer, and you get a bunch of money from your cow who you milk, and you sell the milk at the market, whatever. If I steal your cow from you, and now you have no cow, and I don't make any sort of recompense for your cow, your family's going to starve. Your family's going to starve. You're killing somebody by doing that. Or let's give a different example. Let's say you have an employer who's greedy and underpays his employees, stealing in that way. That's putting their not exactly in our culture, but in other cultures, but putting their life at risk. So it is akin to murder because you're putting in danger the substance of their life, that which sustains them. And then the second reason, I thought this was fascinating that St. Thomas puts this as the second reason. Second reason is a peculiar danger involved in theft. For so no sin is so dangerous. After committing other sins, a person may quickly repent. For instance, of murder when his anger cools, or of fornication when his passion subsides, and so on for others. But even if one repents of this sin, one does not easily make the necessary satisfaction for it. So you see, again, with somebody who commits many other sins, or yourself, when you look in yourself of those sins that you've committed, once the sort of concupiscence which pushed you to that sin subsides, usually you're gonna repent, if you are somehow in goodwill. But when it comes to paying back theft, it's difficult. Because, I mean, I don't know, steal $1,000, you got to pay back $1,000 plus damages. It's a lot of money. If you already used the money, that's going to be a lot of personal risk, I guess you could say, or personal damage that you're going to take to try to repay the dumb stuff you did. So it's not easy to make this restitution that's necessary. And then the third reason is just stupid. These things are useless. They're not useful spiritually, obviously, because you can't give it for almsgiving or offerings or anything like that. It's also not useful temporally, because if anything you steal, you're just going to use it. Like what else is it going to be? Like you steal a loaf of bread for somebody, you're just going to eat the bread, and then you're just not going to have it after you eat your bread. You steal money from somebody, you're just going to spend it. And after you spend it, it's spent. It's a stupid sin. It's a stupid sin. And then the fourth reason is that the results of theft are peculiarly harmful to the thief in that they lead to his loss of other goods. So, okay. Now going to the 8th commandment, which has to do with bearing false witness. So he distinguishes between two types of bearing false witness, and the first one's not as important in a court of justice, which can happen by false accusations, false witnessing, and then perverting of justice by the judge. But the one we're more concerned with is the type of the bearing of false witness that happens in ordinary conversation. So there's 5 ways that St. Thomas is going to list for this. So the first way is by detraction. So if you don't know what detraction is basically the exposing of some sort of fault in order to destroy somebody's good name. So it may actually be exposing something they did wrong. So somebody could absolutely do something wrong, and then you reveal it for the sake of destroying their good name, taking away their good name, destroying their reputation. That's a very serious sin, destroying somebody's good name. And then secondly, you can break it actually by listening to detractors willingly. I'm sure you've been in that situation. Somebody's talking bad about somebody else, and you kind of, go over there and listen and say, oh, what are they saying over there? Kind of, they did what? No. 1 ought to turn away, showing a stern countenance. You got to show a stern countenance in this situation. Third, gossipers break this precept when they repeat whatever they hear. Obviously, gossip. Fourth, flatterers. And then fifth, complainers. And this is very common among subjects. So true. Complaining equal bad. I'm glad he added complaining in there. I thought that was fun. So, and then also, this prohibits us from every form of falsehood. This prohibits us from every form of falsehood. And then he gives 4 reasons for this. So no lying. No lying. Lying's bad. Okay, the first is that lying likens one to the devil, because a liar is as the son of the devil. He's as the son of the devil. And then he makes this interesting comment that it's basically like, your accent betrays where you're from. I have many people can't notice it. I have a Maryland accent. It's mid-Atlantic. I say my ons weird. I say some of my vowels in a weird way. I've tried to overcome it, but it still comes through. So just like the accent, my accent would betray where I'm from. So your lying betrays that you're a son of the devil. So lying for St. Thomas is very serious, and obviously for our Lord as well, because he was the one that called the devil a liar and the father of lies. So you're a son of the devil if you lie. But on the contrary, those who speak the truth are children of God, because God is truth. The second reason is that lying induces ruin of society. Think about this. Is there any sort of people in your life who, they've been known to lie? You just don't trust those people. And if you have a bunch of people around you who you don't trust, that's going to induce ruin into that society. Third is a liar loses his reputation for the truth. And it's kind of funny. This is like what's that fairy tale? Boy Who Cried Wolf, sort of thing St. Thomas is saying. Fourth reason that the liar kills his soul. And then St. Thomas provides for us the distinction between a mortal and a venial sin in terms of lying, which is very helpful. So, some lies are mortal, some are venial. It is mortal sins, for instance, to lie in matters of faith. This concerns prelates and teachers and preachers and is the greatest of all other kinds of lie. And certain ones say such things sometimes that they may seem to know. Then there are those who lie to wrong his neighbor. These two kinds of lies, therefore, are mortal sins. So, lying in matters of faith and lying to wrong your neighbor. Those are mortal sins. But there are also some who lie for their own advantage. And this is in a variety of ways. So merely lying for your own advantage, so I don't know, to make you not seem that bad. That's something which is venial. Sometimes it is out of humility and confession, about which St. Augustine says, just as one must avoid concealing what he has committed, so also he must not mention what he has not committed. And again, does God have any need of your lie? He humbles himself badly. There are others who tell lies out of shame, namely when one tells a falsehood believing that he is telling the truth. And on becoming aware of it, he is ashamed to retract. This is very common in internet stuff. I'm sure we've all experienced the time, we're very, very sure of something and we're fighting with somebody and we actually are wrong. We figure out we're wrong. We don't go back and say, oh, okay, I was wrong. Like, no, people don't do that. But this is nevertheless venial. In no wise speak against the truth, but be ashamed of the lie of your ignorance. Others lie for desired results when they wish to gain or avoid something, so some sort of personal gain. Finally, there are some who lie to benefit another. That is, when they wish to free someone from death or danger or some other loss. This must be avoided, as St. Augustine says, accept no person against your own person, nor against your soul a lie. But others lie only out of vanity, and this too must never be done, lest the habit of such leads to a mortal sin. So these are all venial. Don't do them. Don't do them because they will lead to a certain habit that brings about possibly falling into the mortal sin of lying, which is matters of faith or to wrong your neighbor. Okay, so the 9th commandment. This is not the real 9th commandment. This is St. Thomas's own version of the 9th commandment. I'm joking. But really, the 9th commandment is not coveting your neighbor's wife. And the 10th commandment is basically not coveting your neighbor's things. But St. Thomas wanted to do the more general first and then the more particular. So St. Thomas switched them up and put the 9th commandment as thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. So... but with the 9th and 10th commandment, these are interesting because it's not only covering the words of men or the actions of men, which even the civil powers judge, but as St. Thomas notes, there's this difference between the divine law and the human law. The human law judges only deeds and words, whereas the divine law judges not only those, but also thoughts. The reason is because human laws are made by men who see things only exteriorly. The divine law is from God, who sees both external things and the very interior of man. So it makes sense, God is going to regulate not only our deeds but our thoughts, because as we know, the interior thoughts are really what leads to exterior deeds. So, for example, coveting your neighbor's wife is going to lead to adultery with your neighbor's wife. It's not going to be too hard of a concept to get. You covet something, you covet your neighbor's goods, then you steal your neighbor's goods. So, and then he gives some reasons. So the first reason for the commandment is that man's desire has no limits, because desire itself is boundless. But he who is wise will aim at some particular end, for no one should have aimless desires. Our desires really are infinite. Because because the human desire is really not satisfied by anything created. He says here, but the desires of man are not satisfied because the heart of man is made for God. Nothing, therefore, less than God can satisfy the human heart. But when you have godless men, they still have an infinite desire because they're still men. But because they're without God, that infinite desire is kind of drawn to and fro. And it has the sort of potential for infinite evil. This is actually part of the ratio for why St. Thomas justifies eternal punishment. He says, well, the desire of man for sin is in a certain way infinite, not only against an infinite creator, but also in a certain infinite way in that our desires are infinite. Therefore, infinite punishment is deserved for these evil desires. And then the second reason is that the covetousness destroys the peace of heart, which is indeed highly delightful. Third, covetousness in a man of wealth renders his riches useless both to himself and others, because he desires only to hold on to them. The fourth reason is that it destroys the equality of justice. And the fifth reason, that it destroys the love of neighbor. Finally, covetousness produces all kind of wickedness. So, and it should be noted that covetousness is a mortal sin when one covets one's neighbor's goods without reason. And even if there be a reason, it is a venial sin. Okay, but the important part, the part that I wanted to get to, is the 10th commandment. Because the 10th commandment is about the coveting of a woman, which basically about lust and how to control lust and things like that. And obviously, this is going to be very practically important for a lot of the people listening right now. So I wanted to just go over this quite fully. So he says, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, which again, remember, technically 9th commandment, but he lists that as the 10th. St. John says in his first epistle that all that is in the world is the concupiscence of the flesh, the concupiscence of the eyes, and the pride of life. Now, all that is desirable is included in these three, two of which are forbidden by the precept, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. For by house is understood both height, which regards to pride, and width, which regards to avarice. Glory and wealth shall be in his house. This means that he who desires the house desires honor and riches. And thus, after the precept forbidding desire for the house of one's neighbor, comes the commandment prohibiting concupiscence of the flesh. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. Because of the corruption which resulted from the fall, none has been free from concupiscence except Christ and the glorious Virgin. Notice, but St. Thomas denies the Immaculate Conception. Real, not fake at all. He actually doesn't. As a reminder, he affirms the Immaculate Conception. And wherever there is concupiscence, there is either venial or mortal sin, whenever it is said to dominate the reason. Hence the apostle says, do not let sin reign in your mortal body. And he did not say, let sin not be, for as the apostle himself says, I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, in my flesh. And he's going to provide a list right here. First of all, sin rules in the flesh when, by giving consent to it, concupiscence reigns in the heart. 4, with God, the intention is taken for the act. Second, sin rules in the flesh when the concupiscence of the heart is expressed in words. Therefore, one is not without sin who composes frivolous songs. Even the philosophers so thought, and poets who wrote amatory verses were sent into exile. Third, sin rules in the flesh when it is the behest of desire. The members are made to serve iniquity. Therefore, there are 3 steps of concupiscence. This is why typically the listing, traditionally the listing of sort of lustful acts are going to be thoughts, words, and deeds. Thoughts, words, and deeds, which is destroy. Each one of these evil thoughts, evil words, evil deeds are going to be destroyed by the virtue of chastity. Incontinence. Continence is against objects going against us. Chastity is sort of a positive virtue. So we must realize that the avoidance of concupiscence demands much labor, for it is based on something within us. It is as hard as trying to capture an enemy in one's own household. However, this desire can be overcome in 4 ways. So first, by fleeing the external occasions, such as, for instance, bad company, and in fact, whatever there may be an occasion for this sin. And thus Lot was commanded to flee from all the country about. So the first one is there's a really fun quote from St. Philip Neri, and I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but his quote goes like this: is he says, when it comes to the sins of the flesh, the coward is the victor. When it comes to the sins of the flesh, the coward is the victor. So really, when it comes to sins of the flesh, external occasions, whatever it may be, you just gotta run, bro. You gotta pull the Joseph. You just gotta run. Doesn't matter. Just run. Literally, just leave. Get out of there. It doesn't matter. Just run. Just get out of there. Don't think about it. Just leave. External occasions almost always ensnare you into some sort of lust, and whether it be external, merely internal acts or something external. Like, bro, literally just run. You see something which is somehow tempting you towards sexual sin, literally just leave. Like, just get out of there. It's better. Like, I don't know. You're in. I don't know. I'm about to like give a really weird example. I don't know if you're in McDonald's trying to get like a quarter pounder for lunch or something. You're standing there. You know, somebody comes in that's an external occasion for falling into lust, and you see that person, and you know that you'll probably lust if you're in there, bro. It's better to just take that as a penance and not eat lunch, bro. Just leave. Get out of there. Run. Never come back. Just never come back, bro. Just leave. It's better. It's better. It's much better. So flee external occasions. The second way is by not giving an opening to thoughts which of themselves are the occasion of lustful desires. And this is what is done by mortification of the flesh. And the third way is perseverance in prayer. All this is not unlike to a fight between two persons, one of whom you desire to win and the other to lose. You must sustain the one and withdraw all support from the other. So also between the spirit and the flesh, there's a continual combat. Now, if you wish the spirit to win, you must assist it by prayer. Likewise, you must resist the flesh by means of fasting, for by fasting the flesh is weakened. So doing penance. This is this right here, the second way and the third way. These are kind of the two wings. So first, run, literally just run, bro, get out of there. Second, habitually, if this is something you struggle with, fast. To chastise your body. Like, bro, sleep on the floor, take cold showers, don't eat. Starve the flesh. Starve the flesh and feed the spirit. And the feeding of the spirit is going to be done by prayer. So prayer and fasting. That's how you win over your flesh. And then the best. So the fourth way is to keep oneself busy with wholesome occupations. We see this a lot. A lot of people fall into sexual sin because they got nothing better to do. As bad as that sounds, yeah, they literally just have nothing better to do. And that's what causes them to fall into this. Is they have a lot of time on their hands. They have a time to think on their hands. But no, study. There you go. Now, study of the scriptures is the best of all occupations, as Jerome tells us. So literally, that is the best thing you could do. The best thing you could do. Just sit there and study. That's what Jerome got over it. Just studied Hebrew. I mean, as somebody who has studied Hebrew before, I get it. I get how that would put a damper on things. It's a very difficult language. But, literally keep yourself busy with some external occupation, prayer, mortification of the flesh, reducing external occasions for sin. Those are the ways of doing it. Really, everything's going to fall into those four categories. So that's all that fellas saying they can watch the Oppenheimer movie with like 10 minutes of that stuff. Yeah, I probably won't watch the Oppenheimer movie for sure. Because I was under the impression that that basically it was just like a normal sort of quick scene where you can kind of just like, shut your eyes. Or usually if I watch movies like that, I look up like literally look up the parents guide beforehand. I'm serious. Look, movie title, parents guide. Like I will show you guys right now. Oppenheimer Parents Guide. Let's um you can look at it. You just Oppenheimer Parents Guide, and it will literally just tell you. It'll tell you, bros. Stop the screen, share it. It will tell you everything that's there. So you don't need to be surprised. So look, boom. In extended sequences of female breast nudity, boom. You just know it's there. So in a lot of movies, you can kind of just like shut your eyes really hard and for like the 10 seconds that something like that is on there. That's why it's great to have a wife, boys. Just like skip, she can skip ahead. You can even find out if you're particularly savvy, like the timestamps, to kind of just like close eyes and la 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 sort of thing. If you're watching at home, but yeah, if you have a crippling porn addiction, watching 10 minutes of breast nudity from Oppenheimer probably isn't going to be a prudent decision. Sorry to tell you. But yeah, I had um yeah, I guess that's where my late night tired reflections on things like this should cease for my own good. Okay, so thank you all. As always, this was a little short, but I will see you in 2 weeks. And as always, God bless.